Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs, and today I have this really cool Dragonfly journal to share with you, so let's jump right in. So to start, I am going to show you the papers that I'm working with. These are all from my Porch prints. I'll have all the links down below. You can go and check them out. So I have the two covers that I want to use. These are from the antique cover set. I have the fancy spine that I'm showing you here. I'm going to use the 1.5 inch. It also comes with this part that you use to go behind the spine. And then I'm also going to use the hidden spine template. This is a freebie in the My Porch Prints Facebook group that you can get. You can also purchase it on their page. So I'll link both of those. And then I am going to be using some chipboard that I'm going to cut down. I'm just showing you all the things that I'm going to kind of bring in for this, so you have a general idea of what I'm using. And now I don't do a lot of bookbinding, so I'm sure you're going to see tons of mistakes, but I think it turned out pretty neat for what is really my first attempt. So bear with me as we work through this. So I'm going to cut my chipboard to 8.5 by 5.5. That is going to be the cover size. And then I'm also going to cut out a piece that's going to be 1.5 by 8.5. That will be the spine piece. And I am using chipboard just because it is very sturdy, very stable. And it is my kind of preference when building books. Not that I've built many, because I haven't, but this is probably my first real attempt at a book, but I have done some kind of smaller projects that I've kind of done some binding. This one's really interesting in as much as it employs the hidden spine, and it is going to have a couple of different techniques that I've never done before, and I do make a few mistakes, so bear with me as we kind of go through this. I'm going to score all of the pieces so that they'll fold. One of the mistakes that I made here is that my outside spine piece, which is this piece, is actually smaller than my inside hidden spine piece, so I'm going to have to kind of alter that as we go. Again, this is a test book. I'm learning a lot with this book. I don't know if you guys know, I have mentioned it a couple of times. I've been commissioned to make a wedding guest book for a friend of mine, and this was like a test book to employ the hidden spine and see, kind of what techniques I wanted to employ in the book. And so there is a lot of learning going on, but I really had fun making it, and I thought that if anybody else was kind of a beginner bookmaker, they might find some of these techniques really interesting, so I wanted to make it a video so you guys could kind of check it out. Now I'm just going to reinforce the score lines, and if you're someone who's made multiple books, let me know if you have any tips for me as a kind of a beginner bookmaker. I have been really enjoying making books. You're gonna see quite a few on the channel coming up, just because they're a lot of fun to make, and I've been really kind of enjoying the techniques that get involved and the different, papers you can use and different things you can kind of bring in. And I had a lot of fun making this book. Now, this is just the structure of the book. We're not going to get into any decoration in this one. There is going to be a video of all of the decoration, but I needed to kind of understand the structure first before I employed all of the, decorations and whatnot. So if you would like a longer video with both together, let me know. I kind of separated them out, thinking that if someone wanted to kind of follow along or, create a book as well, this takes all the fancy and fair out of it. This is really just the bare bones pieces that I'm kind of building together. So let me know your thoughts and your, whatever you prefer. I would love to know. This is my first mistake. I put the spine too close to I think this is the cover piece. I didn't put enough distance between the two because these flaps are so small. I made the mistake of just putting it too close. So the book will not lay perfectly flat. Not a big deal. Again, it's a learning experience, but it's something that I learned from this book that I will employ in the next book. You do need more distance between these two pieces. And that's where I kind of made a mistake here, because it won't open flat when I adhere all the other stuff. Like it does here because there's nothing else holding it. But once we kind of get into, adding the signatures and everything, it won't hold. So keep that. It does hold, sorry. It just won't lay flat. So just keep that in mind if you're recreating this. Leave extra distance between the spine and the cover and back cover of your book. Here, I just brought in a piece of tea-dyed paper. This is honestly just to give it a little more stability. And this is where I went a little bit wrong. So this piece can't fold properly, and you're going to see me struggle with it a little bit. Like I said, I learned a lot from this book. So I'm going to fold it here so that it has the right kind of shape. I should have let it adhere a bit better before I did that. Because it would have helped the creases here. But again, like I said, I'm learning, and you have to try things in practice to kind of understand what needs to happen. So bear with me, loads of mistakes, but I think that I fixed them as I went, and kind of, it worked out okay. I think the book turned out really pretty. I'm still going to do all the decorations and whatnot. I just had to kind of brainstorm things as I was going, because I don't really know what I'm doing. And I made some funny mistakes as I went. And then I'm going to bring in my gathered twigs just to add a little bit of distressing around the papers and whatnot. With this kind of cover, you don't end up wrapping anything around. So because of that, you end up seeing the creases, which is perfectly okay. It's just a different type of style. I don't think it's my preferred style. This kind of gives you a raw edge, and I kind of prefer the wrapped look. I think it's just a little bit more cohesive. You guys know, if you've been with me for a while, I kind of lean towards a more cohesive style. That's generally what I prefer. But I wanted to give this a go, and the covers don't come with anything that wraps. They are the exact size of the 8.5 by 5.5. So with that, you have a raw edge to the journal, and that's perfectly okay. It's still really pretty. It's just not what I prefer. So I had an idea for a different journal that we'll make later, and it will have papers that actually wrap around everything so that none of the raw edges stick out. They don't stick out, sorry. You just can see them around everything. So that's just something to consider with this hidden spine and covers. Nothing wraps with them, so that you can see the raw edge of the chipboard and whatnot. But it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't look bad. It's just a look. It's just a style, right? Because these fit the front perfectly. Now, if you wanted to, you could probably make the chipboard bigger, wrap it, and then use these and just have like a border around them. That would be a way to use these covers while still having, the wrapped look. But that's not what I'm going to do here. So I think it works out okay. But tell me your thoughts. Do you like the book? Do you think it turned out pretty? What would you change if you were creating this? Or what style of book do you like better? Like, this is going to have that hidden spine, so you cannot see any of the signatures. And a signature is just a collection of papers. If you're really new to bookbinding and you don't know, what that means, it's just a collection of papers. And in this case, they're all printed, but you could use blank papers, you could use tea-dyed papers, there's so many things you could do. I opted to just use printed pages, and this is all from the Dragonfly paper kit from my Porch Prints. So I did 3 decorative pages per signature and 2 journaling pages per signature. So each signature has 5 sheets that are folded in half, which gives you 10 sheets technically in the signature. It is 5 sheets. And these are that 8.5 by 5.5 as well. So they all fit in the journal like exactly. So that's another thing I think I would change in my next journal, is that I would probably have the cover overlap the pages a little more, just so you don't have them sticking out. But like I said, this was a learning experience for me. This is kind of my first full-on built journal. So I had to kind of trial and error a bunch of things, and I didn't know my preferences until I kind of made it, and then was like, oh, I kind of prefer this or whatever, right? So I'm going to fold all of my signature, kind of put it together how I want it. So you're going to see here like a decorative page, a journaling page, a decorative page, a journaling page with outlines, a decorative page. And that's kind of how I've built the signatures, just because I liked that look. I thought it was kind of fun. And because we're going to add decorations as well, so I have to have some variation in the pages, and then there's going to be variation in the decorations that we add. There's also an ephemera kit for the Dragonfly set, and I think it's, I don't remember it. There's like an ephemera kit, and there's a pockets and tags kit, I think. I don't know. I have them all linked. You can check them out. And then I thought it would be really fun just to give my pages a deckled edge. So I cut the fancy pages just kind of the way they are. And then these pages, I printed everything double-sided. So on the journaling pages, I flip them over so that the decal is different, because the page is the same front and back on the writing pages. So I kind of just flipped them over so that you got a bit of a different decal between the pages. So it wasn't the exact same decal every page. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. This is such a subtle detail. If you wanted more, you would need to, get like one of those rulers and like get a way more drastic decal. This is a very, very subtle decal, but I own the trimmer and I wanted to bring it out and just add a little bit of texture to the page. I thought it was kind of interesting. This one struggled to cut a little bit on the bottom. Not a problem. I do have 2 layers of paper here. You have to keep in mind because the page is folded over. So it just struggled a little bit on the end. I just brought out my scissors and trimmed it up. It wasn't a problem. And then I want to add a little, I always forget the name, eyelet. I wanted to add an eyelet in the cover. I want to dangle some charms and maybe some ribbons, or I don't know. We're not in the decorating stage at this point, but I was thinking ahead. So I'm going to pop a hole in my cover. This is going through the chipboard. And I'm going to use my crocodile here, and that just cuts me the hole. I used the smaller one by accident. You'll see me repunch this hole a little later when I have to kind of go and add the eyelet in. I just punched the hole at this point. I won't add the eyelet until I've actually put the whole book together. And then this is the template that comes with that hidden spine. You can see that I printed a pattern paper on it because you can see the hidden spine when you stitch in the signatures. You'll see it later when we actually have stitched everything in, but you can see it. So because you can see the hidden spine, you kind of need it to look like something. You could use white paper if you were going to use white paper as your covers, but I wanted to use this really pretty pattern paper you see printed on my hidden spine. So I matched that as what's going to go on the inside of the covers. And now here I'm just trying to line it up. I did struggle a little bit just because the template was a little bit larger than my signature. So I had to kind of get it to just be centered and look nice. And then I'm going to bring out my bookbinding kit. This has an awl in it, which is what I'm going to use to poke all the holes. So I'm going to use this template to poke the holes into the signature. I have that crease right in the center of my pages so that the crease of the template lines up with the crease of my pages, my signature. And then I'm going to poke the 3 holes. This is called a pamphlet stitch. It is probably the simplest stitch to use to bind things. So it is my preference for binding. It's the easiest one I've learned so far. I'm sure I'll as I get a little more comfortable with bookbinding, I will start using different stitches. But the 3-hole pamphlet stitch seems to be the easiest for me to kind of wrap my head around. So that is where I go. And then I brought the awl in to just poke all of the holes into the hidden spine. I'm going to have 4 signatures of 5 sheets. That's what I chose. You can add more or less, totally up to you and what your cover can sustain. Because I know I'm going to add a lot of decorations, I did want to have a fair amount of like a gap in my stuff just so that I knew that I could fit all of the goodies, all the extras, the ephemeras, the pages, the whatevers I'm going to add. I want to add lace. I want to add ribbon. I want to deck this thing out with all sorts of fun decorations. So knowing that, I left room for that in the journal. So then I brought a piece of waxed thread in to sew in my signature, and I gave it about 3.5 of the height of my journal. So we're going to go in the back of the template, in the center. We're going to go through the center of the signature. We're going to go up to the top. You could go to the bottom. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go up to the top. Make sure that your tail stays. You're going to go up through the top of the hidden spine. Then you're going to go through the bottom and then back through the center. And that is your pamphlet stitch. I did struggle a little bit with the first one just because everything kind of shifts around as you're working. And again, I am newer to this. So I also hit the camera there, sorry, as I'm trying to stitch my stuff. And I had stuff grab my binder clips, like my thread kept trying to grab my binder clips, everything like that. Like I just struggled a little bit, but it turned out great. So once you've got that through, you tighten your threads until they're nice and tight. I moved the binding clips. And then you're going to tie the tails around the string that's gone up and down. Hopefully that makes sense. You're going to see me here do it twice. This is sped up a little bit just because if I did this in real time, it would be kind of slow. But you see that the thread that we went up through the top hole and down through the bottom hole, that long thread, tie your tails around that thread because then it can't just let go because it's already knotted. And I will go back later and add glue as well to make sure that my knots don't let go. And then we're going to go on to the next signature. And then that's how you do all 4 signatures. This is the simplest stitch in my opinion as a non-professional bookbinder. I'm sure that there are other stitches out there people could tell you about. This is the one that I find the easiest myself. So I'm going to put that template back in the center of my next signature. I'm going to poke my holes with my awl. Now, I'm going to make a mistake here. Remove the template before you stitch in the signature. I made a mistake and I forgot to do that. And I also used just a little bit less of the thread here, just because I realized I didn't need 3.5. I think I used just shy of 3, which was almost a little bit too small amount. So, it's one of those learning experience things. See here, I'm stitching in the signature with the template. And I'm going to realize it in a second and have to pull it apart because I don't want the template in the center of my signature. I think it's right here when I pull this through that I'm like, oh man, no. And then I just realize it as I'm going to go in the back hole again, and then I'm going to pull it out and remove the template. But it's super easy to remove. This is a super easy stitch. I mean, until you've actually done the knot and done the glue, you can pretty much untie this and just fix it if you need to. So keep that in mind. Pretty straightforward, I think. So you can see I went through the center of the hidden spine and then into the signature, up through the top hole, all the way down through the bottom hole, and then back through the center hole. Try not to catch the center thread when you go back through the center hole. It's not a huge deal if you do, but try not to, because then you're not doing this signature stitch through the other thread, if that makes sense. And then here I can just tie my back. You'll see I intentionally wrap my thread around the signature that's going all the way up in the bottom to hold that thread in so that my signature can't just let go and fall out. Okay. That is kind of important. Ideally do that, or your signature can just untie itself and let go. And then that's the signature. So I'm going to have all 4 here ready to go. You can see that they're all stitched in. They look great. And I'm going to add that little bit of glue, like I said, to each of my knots, just as a secondary thing to hold them in. I mean, they're like triple knotted. They shouldn't just let go, but because I'm so new to bookbinding, I figured this was just the best way to make sure that it would be secure. And then we're going to attach everything together. So you actually saw me using a different kind of glue here. I have seen others use this in bookbinding. I've never personally used this glue, and I just thought I would give it a chance. It's Fabri-tac. It's a little bit of a pricey glue, to be honest. At least for me in Canada, it's kind of pricey. So I only got a little bottle to test it out and see what I thought. It is interesting. It doesn't warp, which I really appreciate when working with a bookbinding method. So I was pretty happy about that. And so this is my first time using it, so I don't really have a strong opinion yet. I'm just kind of getting used to it. And then here I'm going to adhere in my signature. And this is where you just set it in the cover. So this is where I'm going to realize that my hidden spine template is bigger than the template that we used for the pretty spine. And I had to rescore the sides of this template a little bit just to make sure that it would fold nicely with the cover. I didn't show you that because it wasn't necessary, but that is what I did there. And then I'm just going to use my bone folder and kind of reinforce where I need the glue to adhere. I probably played with this too much, to be honest with you, but I just was having fun. So I just kind of kept pressing it and getting it into where I needed it to be. And then I'm going to just double check that I like how everything's sitting as the glue is adhering. And then I did walk away and leave it alone for a few minutes after I was kind of pressing. You can see here I'm just pressing the bottom of my hidden spine to make sure that it actually adhered to the spine and stayed where I needed it to go, because it was trying to buckle a little bit when I went to redo those score lines. And then here I'm pretty happy with it, but you can see between each signature, you can see the hidden spine. So this is why we printed something on it. That's the reason for that. Now, it doesn't matter if you don't care. You could have just, added a little bit of brown oxide ink and that kind of thing. But I just thought it would be really fun to just have it be printed and match the inside cover papers that you see sitting on screen now. So this is where I realized that I punched the wrong hole for my eyelet. And then I'm going to go and pop that eyelet in. It's kind of a bronze color. I went with bronze hardware for this. I just kind of thought it matched that really pretty. And my gold was nothing like the cover gold, so I matched the bronze instead. I thought it was kind of neat. And then I'm going to start just putting in all the pages. One of my kittens came to visit. Aqua had to check everything out, make sure that it was acceptable. She didn't stay long, so I guess it was acceptable. And then we're just going to edge the pieces of the cover I'm going to edge everything. You're not going to see me do that. I'm talking about the ephemera now in the decorating video. I'm probably not going to do it in the video, to be honest with you. I'm probably going to sit on the couch and just edge everything because it's kind of time consuming and boring to watch. But just know that I have done that. So if you're like, why does this look different than what I have? It's because I edged it with my, I think it was gathered twigs is what I said, right? I think. I'm just looking at my notes to see what I wrote down. Yeah, it is gathered twigs. So yeah, so I'm just gonna edge it now and then adhere my cover and back cover in. And this helps hide that hidden spine, but it's also the same paper as my hidden spine. So if you can see a little bit of it, it doesn't matter because you can't differentiate my, inside cover from the hidden spine piece that well. So it just looks like it matches what I've used for the hidden spine. And I thought that was really pretty. So I'm gonna put those in, and then that's pretty much the whole structure. I am going to add the closure here. I opted to just loop it through. I didn't end up, I thought about adhering my ribbon underneath the cover when I adhered that in, but I chose not to. Sorry, the inside of the cover. I chose not to. I ended up just, excuse me. I ended up just looping it through twice. I'm so sorry, guys. I can't stop every time I cough. I've tried already so many times. I'm feeling much better than I was last week, but I'm still fairly sick. So I'm just working through here. So excuse me there. Sorry, guys. So I'm just going to pop those same eyelets into the front and back, and then I'm going to loop through this blue silk ribbon. I get this at my local store. They can't get it anymore, which I'm really bummed about because I love it. I have it in pink, I have it in black, I have it in blue, I have it in white so I can spray it myself. I love it so much. So I took 2 pieces of this blue ribbon, and honestly, I just eyeballed it. I have no idea what the measurement is. And then I also cut out a piece of this really pretty lace and cut that to the same length of that blue ribbon. And then I'm going to just take the 2 and, feed them through the hole so that it's in the center. And then that's what I'm going to use to actually tie the thing together. I did it this way because then I can let it grow with my journal. As I add all the decorations and I put all the stuff in and it gets thicker and thicker, this will just grow with that because it's just, tucked into the hole and then it's holding itself there because it's like the center of the 2 pieces, and then you tie the 4 ends together, and then that creates your little closure. So that's why I did it this way, because I had no idea how thick this was going to get. As again, this is my first one, so I don't know how wide we're going to end up. I don't know how much bulk is going to end up in the journal, and this just gave me that freedom to, kind of add as much or as little decoration as I end up adding, and it'll look beautiful because it'll still close with no issues. So I'm going to show you a closer look of everything that I did today. I would love to know your guys' opinion. I know I am a card making channel, but I'm hoping you guys will enjoy some of these other projects as well. They're just so fun to make. I have so much fun trying out different techniques. And I realized while I was editing this that I forgot to film a little look at everything. So I had to go and do that. So that's why my nails are vastly different now, because I actually made this a couple weeks ago. And then I just filmed this piece right here today. So that's why everything looks a little bit different. But yeah, so that is the journal I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.